I'm Karin Burns. I'm the CEO, as mentioned, of San Diego Community Power. And we're excited to be the title host sponsor here and to celebrate this thriving clean tech ecosystem. We are a local not-for-profit clean energy provider, and our goal is to get to 100% clean and renewable power by 2035 or sooner, and to do that in a way that's innovative, affordable, equitable, and sustainable. So we've got a tall order and big shoes to fill. But we're here tonight because we need to do that work with you all together. We're not going to get there alone. We need innovative companies driving really creative solutions to make that happen. And so a little bit about CCAs, or Community Choice Aggregators. We have recently formed in the last decade or so, and we represent a transformative and innovative development within California's retail energy sector. So we have given customers choice as opposed to having only one incumbent utility. So now customers have choice, and they also are able to provide innovative programs to our customers. We started serving our first customer in March of 2021. We were only formed in 2019, and now since I've been here, we've grown from 8 folks to 80. We started with about 350,000 customers when we first launched. We're nearly 1 million customers. So we are also a rapidly growing startup, and as you heard from Jason, we kicked him out of his office and then we moved and we just expanded into the downstairs space where we are over Liberty Station. So we really resonate with the groups here and resonate with the startup philosophy. We really maintained a startup feel in our organization even as we've grown, and we've been really intentional about building an inclusive culture and a collaborative one as well. And so we have recently updated our strategic plan, and now we are catalyzing that clean energy future. So we went through that rapid scaling, or linear direction, rapid scaling process, and now we are investing in renewable energy projects, both large and small, as well as really exciting, innovative work like virtual power plants, which some technologies here in the room are even able to support. So we're really excited to partner with local entrepreneurs. We can move more innovatively and rapidly. We are doing pilots around innovation, and we're really excited to work with all of you to get to that clean energy future of 100% renewable energy that we're all seeking. So tonight, as we kick off this panel, let's use this opportunity to learn from one another and to think about how we build that climate resilient future together. So here we're going to hear from 3 regional clean energy experts first to kick things off, as they share their insight on San Diego's clean energy industry and how the region is really supporting development and deployment of clean tech innovation. So I'm going to turn it over to our first presenter, Zora Chung, co-founder and CFO at ReJoule. Then we'll hear from Gareth Evans, founder and CEO at VECKTA. And next from Carlos Gaitan, CEO and co-founder at Benchmark Labs. Thank you so much, and please welcome Zora.
I'm Zora Chung, the co-founder and CFO at ReJoule. Our mission is to maximize the value of every battery. So a little bit about us. We are not based in San Diego, just about 100 miles north of here in Signal Hill, small city surrounded by Long Beach. We recently worked with major automakers, and we've actually deployed our technology across 3 continents already, and we're about to start testing on a 4th. We have actually tested over 12 megawatt hours of batteries. If you're wondering what scale that is almost 200 electric vehicles worth of batteries that we've tested. And all of this was made possible by a lot of our funders. We've raised $25 million in public funding, and we've also raised $2 million in private funding, and actually one of our investors is from VECKTA. Why we exist is because battery testing is actually incredibly difficult to do today. So when it comes time to remove the battery from the car and figure out if it can go back in the car and be used in a second life application, if you're thinking about buying a used EV, you're probably wondering how healthy is that battery. And of course, at some point, the battery does get out of the vehicle, and it is still quite technical and difficult to understand how healthy it is. So we made that a lot easier to do. How our technology works is instead of taking hours, we can do that test in just minutes. while achieving over 90% accuracy, so we're not sacrificing accuracy for speed. And one thing that we learned from the customer demo was that actually the difficulty in doing this testing is actually one of the biggest bottlenecks. So we make it possible where just 1 hour of training, anybody in this room can also become a battery technician. Just a quick case study with one of our customers. The battery you see on the screen right here is actually what we tested. So we weren't testing in vehicle just yet. But in this case study, it took them over 8 hours to test just one battery. We were able to do that in 10 minutes while achieving over 90% accuracy as the standard that they use, so making their business much more scalable. When we compared all the costs that it took them, the equipment to test the batteries cost about $500,000. So even with our startup early stage costs, it was still 51% cheaper. And again, the most amazing thing for them was that anybody on their staff could be trained to be a battery technician. Right now, I'm going to actually just fast forward to a quick demo of how our technology works. Just so you get a little insight into the battery testing world. This is actually our vehicle testing device, so we have a separate one that tests batteries once they've been taken out of the car. What you see on the screen is our software platform that is cloud-based. So you enter some basic information to start the test, and you would plug into the vehicle, and in the case where we're testing decommissioned batteries, it would be to the plus and minus terminals. Once the test starts, you start to see results plotting on the screen because battery testing is supposed to be boring, so we give you status updates to know that things are running. And at the end of the test, you get a grade for the batteries. So when all the batteries look identical, you can sort them based on the grade and figure out what to do next. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Being at Startup San Diego, I wanted to just share that entrepreneurial journeys start in weird and random places. For me, it was lying on the ground of my bunker in Iraq, being mortar attacked. I was supporting the oil and gas industry to move into the region after the Gulf War, and I got first-hand insights into how vulnerable our energy supply chain is. We are extracting oil and gas from random and wacky parts of the world, shipping it around the world, only to then burn it in gas plants to create electricity to power our businesses and homes. I also got to see firsthand what happens when we don't have access to clean, affordable, reliable power. The people who are mortar attacking us were not insurgents. The US intelligence showed it was people like you and I trying to put food on our tables and diesel in our generators to provide for our families. This is the risk and the opportunity. One of the biggest misconceptions in the market today is that renewables are driving up the cost of our energy bills. It is in fact incorrect. The cost of generating energy continues to come down. The cost to deliver it keeps going up. Our transmission and distribution infrastructure just got a D+ rating from the Society of Civil Engineers. We are powering our businesses and communities on an infrastructure that has been built over the last 100 years. There is no other part of our business that we'd rely on infrastructure like that to power our businesses. What we do at VECKTA is we support commercial and industrial businesses to assess where they should deploy on-site energy systems across their portfolio facilities, what they should build, considering all commercially viable technologies, solar, batteries, wind, gas, diesel, if resilience is a critical issue, fuel cells, electric vehicles, and a whole lot more. We help them understand when they should do it, because as we've seen in the last few days, it's a super dynamic market. Incentives come and go, tariffs come and go. When should you be investing? How are you going to get the greatest return on investment? What is the payback period? And then ultimately, we've got a marketplace to help these buyers go to market and ensure that they get the best deal possible. The process ensures that our customers save between 20 and 40% in capital costs, because they run a competitive, transparent process. They know what they want to ask for, so they're not being sold to by developers in the market who will sell them what they want to sell versus what you need. And our process is super efficient. It removes the cost barrier to entry and ensures people can act with confidence, data, intelligence, and insights. Quick example, this is one of our San Diego customers, a biotech firm. They identified their energy costs were going up. They'd gone up over 60% over the last 3 years. They were suffering more and more power outages, They collect skin samples for cancer analysis. Imagine giving a skin sample only to be told, sorry, we lost power, we lost your skin sample, can you come back and give us another one? They spent over 1.5 years looking for a solution. They wanted batteries to ride through power outages. They were repeatedly told by developers it was too expensive and wasn't possible. In less than 4 months, we got their data, ran the analysis, put the opportunity into the marketplace, got 5 competitive quotes, helped them shortlist, negotiate, contract the opportunity. It results in super quick process. They'll save $4 million in energy costs, and they now have the ability to ride through a power outage for up to a day. We have a podcast if you're super excited about this topic. We talk about this all the time. Every week we interview experts ranging from Zach at cleantech San Diego to Jigga Shaw from the industry. So check it out, follow us, and yeah, looking forward to getting into this more tonight.
Hello everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Dr. Gaitan, CEO co-founder of Benchmark Labs. So happy to be here. As a brief of background, we are a tech start company. Mentor madness is a real thing. It's super intense, but totally recommended. Want to thank also JP Morgan Chase that are supporting us in all our banking needs and through our growth as a company. So at Benchmark Labs, what we do is we provide hyper-local weather forecasting technology. It's more than a $30 billion opportunity. So weather affects all of us, but especially people in agriculture and specialty crops, high-value land managers, from pest and frost prevention, disease management, labor, wildfires, and safety. All of those activities are multi-billion-dollar opportunities by themselves, but they all affect agriculture. However, the national weather services all over the world are using technologies that were developed after the Second World War, where they divided the world in boxes, basically like a gigantic Rubik cube, and everybody inside of a box receives exactly the same technology, the same forecast. That's a non-local approach. What we do at Benchmark Labs is try to remove the problems of that generalization that causes significant losses when you really care about managing an asset at a specific location. It could be a solar farm, a wind farm, or an agricultural farm. On the limit could be a ski resort or a mining industry, for example. What our technology achieves is using our proprietary machine learning technology, reduce the errors of the National Weather Service up to 85% in some cases, by integrating IoT sensors, machine learning technology that corrects in real time the biases of these global models, and then we provide recommendations, forecasts, and alerts tailored to each specific location. That allows us to improve labor management, for example, improve water management. We had saved, and we got testimonials in ABC News, where farmers in Imperial saved 10% of water. In California, that's huge, and increase their agricultural yields between 50 to 100% in some cases because they manage more effectively pesticides and fertilizers. That also leads to better safety in labor allocation and better yield and load forecasting for offshore wind applications. We have great traction. We have a part of Techstars, as mentioned before, Nature Conservancy. We had a strategic partnership with hardware manufacturers. And as mentioned before, we also had like some grants that are helping us. I wanted to highlight and end this conversation by mentioning the impact that we had in the community and our relationship with the ecosystem. I want to thank the Economic Development Council in San Diego for helping us with interns. We had supported probably more than 20 interns between UCSD, USD, community colleges locally, and we have like great financial and economic benefits that add on to the environmental impact of our technologies. I will leave here with some partner testimonials, but I wanted to thank you for inviting us here. We will be open for questions after the event.
A couple of questions to ask this group. So those are really exciting technology companies. I love how you guys are using AI to really build the future and how it's all connected to energy. So super exciting. Okay, so my question is, supporting energy entrepreneurs through the Southern California Energy Innovation Network has become a flagship program of cleantech San Diego. How did you end up participating in it, and what has been your biggest lessons learned?
I'm happy to start. I think what's really unique about the program is that it's not a traditional accelerator program. I think it's marketed more of a concierge service. So it's really about like unexpected problems that any business at some point just needs to solve. And so I reached out to Zach and Juliana on the previous party for the most random questions. I was telling them, I know this is super random, but do you happen to know somewhere I have this problem and I don't even know where to get started? So I think the biggest learning is you get out of it when you put into it, so don't ever be afraid to ask for help. In a worst case scenario, they might not be able to help you, but sometimes I might get a phone call a week later and something came up, and because they're there to support you. So definitely don't be afraid to ask and share your problems to a certain extent.
Thank you. Great point. In our case, was very similar. We contacted Zach, Marty, and met Jason. As you know, we do weather forecasting. Weather touches all, probably sometimes too much if you want to focus on a beachhead market. 72 markets we identified. However, after doing the business, the cleantech to market opportunity that Berkeley has, they identified that our top 5 opportunities were going to be specialty crops in agriculture, agricultural insurance, renewables, mining, and golf courses. So I started to get the Rolodex when we moved to San Diego and say, what kind of organizations can help me to get the stepping stones? So we positioned the company to serve these sectors. In the case of cleantech San Diego, they were instrumental in helping us understand how our technology will provide value added to the energy sector, not only in generation, which is pretty clear, but also in operations and maintenance, for example, of solar panels that get damaged by hail, labor scheduling, that could be 20 to 30% of the costs of an offshore wind farm are related to weather delays, and associated environmental benefits in California. For example, thanks to cleantech San Diego, we were invited to apply to a California Energy Commission CalSeed grant, and we linked in that opportunity, you will be surprised that around 60% of the use of water in California goes into agriculture. So savings in water, like the one that our technology enables, directly translates into savings into energy, because most of the locations are pumping water. So 10% in water actually translates into lots of savings into energy and emissions, and that's why this opportunity with cleantech San Diego has been very helpful for us.
Yeah, for us, we obviously got tapped into the community. I was new to San Diego back in 2019, started a business, and then COVID hit. And so trying to integrate into a new community, find people, understand the lay of the land, cleantech San Diego kept coming up time and time again. So we got connected into them, and it's been actually incredible for the lifeblood of a startup is access to an ecosystem and access to funding. And so we've had lots of good warm intros to investors. We've had opportunities to present like this. We've even had a capstone project done by University of San Marcos. We've had internships recommended to us. We've had interns come through the business. And so it's, you start stacking on those values, and I completely agree that you need to ask for help, you need to know, you need to constantly be present, and you get out of it what you put in.
That's great. It sounds like you all got so much out of it, from contacts, to new opportunities, to interns. So that's great. Another question for everyone. So San Diego's clean tech industry is really thriving. We're now ranked 9th among U.S. clean tech innovation hubs, and we support nearly 40,000 jobs, and it's over $8 billion industry growth. Apart from the weather, what do you think makes San Diego a great place for clean tech, and what should we be doing to build on the region's success?
Yeah, I can start. Obviously, trying to attract talent to San Diego is a pretty easy job. It's a beautiful spot. I think we can all attest to that sat here today. I think for me, access to talent, the university system here, whether it be engineers, entrepreneurs, business people, there's lots of incredible talent. I think the ecosystem is really favourable. California in general, really positive entrepreneurship, innovation, atmosphere. And just from a business perspective, California, 5th biggest market in the world, and it's got the perfect storm for energy. It's got a degrading, vulnerable grid. It's got a brutally monopolistic utility model driving up energy costs. It's got endless renewables, and it's got people who want to actually do something about it with very big objectives and goals to achieve. And so, if you're going to make an impact on the world does actually genuinely look to California. And when we talk to customers around the world, we say we're based in California. It actually does come with some street cred. So there's lots of things to like for sure.
That's a great point. So in our case, actually, what I'm coming from the atmospheric science, with my engineering hat and my scientific hat, and I see that there is so much potential in the region with highly specialized scientists that have experience in, of course, we can talk about machine learning, analytics, time series analysis, geophysicists, that often they have to move to other markets because they are not environmental science companies in San Diego. Part of why I selected San Diego as a headquarters is because I think that we can be that hub to give opportunities so this local talent remains in the area. They don't have to go to Silicon Valley or Boston or New York in order to get those opportunities. I think that we have a Scripps leading institution here, we have UCLD, USD, all the UC system, and it's, as Gareth was mentioning, very easy to attract talent into the region, but what I am more concerned is about preventing the migration of talent from the region.
I don't have much else to add, but I will say at least we are based in Los Angeles and actually previously I was living in San Francisco, and I would say that the one big difference here is that the San Diego is really a community feel where it's big because it's not big enough, it's hard for startups to grow here. People are very, very supportive, and actually we've raised most of our angel funding from the San Diego area. So I think not only
So lots of reasons besides the great weather to set and start your business here, especially in cleantech. This question is for Carlos. Carlos, AI is already revolutionizing the way we interact with data. What groundbreaking possibilities do you foresee AI unlocking in our pursuit of cleaner, greener energy future? And what challenges associated with AI should we be prepared for?
Thank you, great question. So at the macro level, there are like big ethical concerns about the use of AI and how they could be misused. Actually, I had the opportunity to testify in Sacramento and in Washington against an AI bill that was created last year and that wanted to be pushed. The initiatives often are well-intended, but in this case they were poorly written. And you will be surprised about the, I would say, the lack of understanding of what AI is and what is not. And what I am concerned is that we might go into a place of over-regulation of a technology that is not fully understood. In this particular case, I would mention that the way as the law was written, that they wanted to push, it would cover Microsoft Excel. And they wanted to basically force it to any company using AI to be liable for the misuse of AI products. As a small company, will be liable because our forecasts are based on AI-driven technology, but the National Weather Service or AccuWeather, they are not liable because they don't use AI. So, you know, there are still some areas that I see in the regulatory and policy domain that they need to be clarified. Many people see AI coming from, especially in California, what happened in Hollywood. The actors guild, the writers, ChatGPT using for scripts. and then they want to put like guardrails around that intellectual property. But for other applications of AI, I think it's very important to understand what they can do. For example, as we mentioned with cleantech, AI can do recommendations similar to you do in detection. They can say which areas of the grid are more vulnerable. You can integrate and overlay different areas of information from population centers, market demands, energy demands, consumption, weather information, industry trends, and the AI could tell you even if you could arbitrage or not futures of energy. And that is why it's making a very exciting opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. I see, especially in energy forecasts, we're waiting for the company to come to us. Here's where we put all this together, because there's so many data points, so much realization, so many things that go into that, making a forecast, and it has real bottom line impact for us, for example.
Happy to help.
All right, so the next question I have is for everyone. The shift toward electrification in California is a critical part of achieving sustainable low-carbon energy systems. What are some of the key challenges and opportunities to accelerate electrification on a local and statewide scale?
I think in terms of electric vehicle adoption, California is well ahead of the rest of the country. But one area where we have some experience, we actually have funding to deploy used EV batteries into stationary storage. We went from a stationary storage, that's still new territory, unlike solar, which is a little bit more established. And I think one big challenge is that there's inconsistency with the permitting process. It costs the authority having jurisdiction, which is the granting the permits. It costs them nothing to say no, but it can cost them their jobs if they say yes and something goes wrong. And there's also no consistency in terms of the process, the standards, and so you can be waiting weeks to months and not knowing what they come back with, what you have to respond with. We had to set up things that are like fire alarm systems that were not part of any code, but they just required it of us, and we had no way of getting around it. So I think that is probably one big challenge, and California is also not very well known for fast permitting either, so that would be another problem that I don't think we'll solve ever.
That is a very good point. So from our perspective, what we see that California can do a lot, especially because it's seen as such a big economy, as Gareth was mentioning, probably the size of France in terms of like what we can achieve. We have the power even to trade agreements bilaterally if we want. So there are lots of opportunities that can be achieved in terms of energy generation. The next frontier for us, specifically in Benchmark Labs, that we have been working with offshore wind companies in the East Coast and in Europe. It will be to unlock the opportunities of offshore in the Pacific. The technology is very exciting, and I think that this is the right place to encourage entrepreneurs in the audience to help and tackle those challenges. Floating wind turbines that work in the Pacific, they cannot be done with pilots like traditional concrete monopiles like in the Atlantic. But the population centers are here. If you look at offshore wind opportunities, they need to be in areas with high winds, which California has many of them, near population centers, and we have like San Diego, we have LA, we have San Francisco easily, that demand electricity at a scale, and offshore wind will complement very well our solar production. So that will be the next frontier. I also, talking about regulatory challenges, I think that we could do more better at doing or planning control permits. Unfortunately, we know what happened in LA with the recent fires, but I think that we do more active vegetation management, that we put less pressure on utilities to be liable for these catastrophic forest fires when you have Santa Ana winds. Of course, I am talking this with my environmental scientist hat and saying what are the weather risks on making that possible. But I encourage you because the opportunities are there, and we are at the right place right now.
The big disconnect I see in the market right now is at a federal level we have the Inflation Reduction Act, which incentivizes and promotes the deployment of on-site energy systems. And yet, at a state and a local level, we have utilities that are incentivized to deploy huge amounts of capital into mega projects. And so if I have the option of deploying microgrids and small distributed energy assets, they're going to cost $2 million each, or billions of dollars into underground in transmission lines, I know which one I'm going to choose if I'm incentivized that way. And so that is the big disconnect in the market, is today we are suffering $150 billion worth of power outage costs as an economy. We have seen in California commercial rates go up 70% in the last 4 years, 80% for industrial, and there is a huge opportunity here. The opportunity is we can generate and store energy right where we need it with small distributed energy assets, and we need to ensure that from a federal level right down to a local and state level that we have aligned incentives and that we're all pulling in the same direction.
Great, well, I'm going to stay on that topic for a minute, just ask Gareth to just talk a little bit more about how we can encourage broader industry adoption of on-site energy in San Diego.
Yes, it's a great question. I think, I'm sure we're all Netflix users here. I think, for me, I always try and think about an analogy to make it feel a bit more understandable. Today we're essentially trying to watch Netflix while on dial-up connection. And we're all passive consumers of energy from the grid. We have no control over when we get it, what we pay for it, how clean it is. Until the CCA came along, which is amazing because now we've got a choice. And I think we are disrupting an entire category. We're in a moment in time where we're looking at century-old infrastructure and commercial models, and we're transitioning from being passive consumers to now active consumers, where we can generate and store our own energy, to ultimately be prosumers. You know, imagine being able to generate and store your own energy and then get paid for that energy, or being able to sell your carbon credits to the biggest corporations in the world that are struggling to reduce their emissions. Like, this is the beautiful opportunity, and the way we achieve that is by making it simple, understandable, accessible, giving people the data, the insights, the intelligence. We want to make it as simple as one-click purchase. Like, that's the ultimate aspiration, is how can a business say, I want to reduce my energy costs, and I want to hit a certain emission reduction goal, and my resilience requirements are X. How do I do that? Click here, buy the system, someone shows up and installs it. We can make it that easy. There's lots of steps along the way to get there, but that's what technology enables, and I think we just need to inspire people to realize that being passive consumers actually sets you up for major, major risks. If your business is experiencing these volatile and ever-increasing energy costs, how do you manage your business when you don't even know what the cost basis is? So that's what we need to change the mindset, is not being passively disrupted, let's proactively get ahead of it and own our power.
And that's really great feedback, and we're seeing that too, that the transition from being passive to being active, and it works really great. You can shave your load, you can save energy on your bills, you can contribute to the energy economy, and you have a resilient system if the power does go out, and it does sometimes. And then you have that resilient system, and so your power is going on. So lots of great reasons, really excited to see that. So I'm going to turn to you and ask about, as EV adoption grows and home battery systems continue to proliferate, there are going to be a lot more batteries in circulation. How do we ensure batteries are being recycled and not new battery fills?
Fantastic question. I think, at least for your home batteries, I would encourage you to talk to the manufacturer or the supplier and ask them what happens to the system at end of life. I've heard a few stories of people that own solar panels, and a lot of places don't take that. It's considered hazardous waste. So, like, there's a story out there, I think it's in the Bay Area somewhere, where someone built a shed with their spare solar panels because they couldn't do anything else with it. So you definitely don't want to try to do that with batteries. Please don't. For your electric vehicles, I strongly encourage people to ask, if you're at a dealership, ask them. They probably don't have an answer for you, but when everybody starts to ask, they will start to look for an answer. Many of the automakers we work with, they're not going to solve the problem unless their customer asks for it. That's just how business is. And I think that other, because for your home batteries and for your electric vehicle batteries, batteries, you will not be bringing that to like a waste facility. So be up to date on what the regulators are doing. So California has a very, very powerful air resources board, also known as CARB. They actually have regulation out called Advanced Clean Cars 2. You can look that up. You can send in public comments. And they usually post like forums for people to voice their concerns. That's actually where I heard about the solar panel tent. So I think just being more educated can definitely play a role, but at the very least, ask the manufacturer and don't let them just say, I don't know.
Right, and advice to be active in this process as well. All right, so I have an interesting question for all of you. I'm going to switch gears for a minute here and talk about capital raising. The timing and strategy behind capital raising can significantly impact a company's trajectory. Can you share your success story on raising capital? Any insights for the audience and what you're doing right now?
It's a great topic right now, right? For ReJoule, actually a lot of our early stage funding came from the government. So we got the policy grants, and we also had a National Science Foundation, SBIR. It's basically like a grant for like innovative new technologies. So I think if you are in something like hard tech, especially if you're in energy, where almost certainly you have to have a hardware component that's considered hard tech, I would definitely encourage looking into government grants. California has a lot of grants. Federal right now is really questionable. And then I think building your network. So like the C network that we have here, knowing who are the angel investors that you can go to, who are the corporate investors you can go to. There's a lot of funds out there that are agnostic, and I found that those don't work for ReJoule because we're just too technical. They don't understand it. So while they say they invest in everything, look to see what companies they have invested in. If they've done the typical enterprise SaaS, and you're doing deep tech, probably not for you. Feel free to practice your pitch, but like other than that, don't expect a call.
Thank you. The 8 points, 100%. Successes, I always start with failures, because I think that sometimes is the part of these speeches that get omitted. Because as part of going in this startup world, of course we celebrate the highs, but there are also many lows. And I think that it's important that you are aware of what is important, how can you overcome. So, one, again, the value of network. We had Techstars. Techstars introduced us to a fantastic number of angels, VCs, and all those ones. Funds that gave us capital. So we received a pre-seed investment from Techstars to accelerate it on that mental madness dash. I don't remember when we did it, was like during COVID. So we had to fly to Boulder. It was a very hectic experience being tested in COVID multiple times per day, but that was fantastic. So leverage those kind of opportunities at accelerators. Look at what accelerators ask you in return. Not all the accelerators are created equal. Techstars is very reputable. Some of them will ask you for like basically 10% of your company for $50,000, which is absurd, but those people exist. So don't take them. I didn't. Sometimes I was tempted, but it's not worth it. Leverage your network. It's a numbers game. Sometimes you cannot control the market. We had talking about the failures, we got a term sheet just before the market collapsed, before the financial markets collapsed, and then they told us, after negotiating the term sheet multiple times, lawyers involved, that the LPs didn't have the money. And all our round collapsed. It was depending on one person, but they didn't have the money. So also, they are going to do due diligence on you as founders, as companies, do due diligence on the funds. Ask them what have they done recently, what they have invested, check sizes, and ask for references. And if they don't give them, go and look at their portfolio from their web pages and call them. Because I have heard that in many cases, these sad stories, but if you don't get the right investor, it's more likely that your company will fail than it will succeed. Investors can help you, that give you that extra delta. but a bad investor in your cap table, in your board of directors, could just jeopardize the next transactions and could jeopardize your Series A, your Series B, and so on. So do the due diligence on your prospective investors. So again, numbers game. Don't be discouraged. Probably we need more than 200 calls, got 3 term sheets, and it's still a numbers game. But it's exciting when you get it. So don't be discouraged and get good banking.
I'll be quick. I'll say fundraising is brutal and exciting all at the same time. Same deal. I'm on to my 3rd fundraise actively right now, Series A. Did pre-seed, seed, 150 pitches, pre-seed, 50 seed. I'm on to probably 50 already for Series A. I'd say the biggest advice I could give is go into every meeting with the right energy, the right emotional presence, but don't follow the emotional roller coaster ride, because you're going to get a lot of no's, you're going to get a few maybes, you just got to be persistent, you got to not ride the highs and lows, and just go into every meeting super present. And if you're not fit for someone, it's their loss, you got to crack on, because there's someone out there who will believe in the mission.
Right, so great thoughts from this group. So it's government grants, right, and other opportunities is do your due diligence, because speed get on your investor team is really, really important. And then also, what you said, be ready to ride the roller coaster, but know that you're on it. Don't get too taken by the highs and lows, because it is a roller coaster. Great. All right, well, we have just about over a minute left. We're going to do a lightning round here. All right. Biggest trends, the biggest disruptions you see coming in the cleantech space, and let's say 3 to 5.
Energy sovereignty, no one's ever talked about it. It was never on the table. It was always cost and sustainability. Power reliability is going to be the #1 topic for the next decade. And that's going to be supported by new battery technologies, new multi-tech hybrid on-site energy systems, and if people aren't embracing it, they're going to be leaving their businesses and communities in jeopardy.
Thank you. I think that one aspect that is going to be imminent for everybody here in the energy community and for us working in machine learning is the advanced and imminent arrival of quantum computing. The opportunities are huge. There is no leader in the market. IBM is betting heavily. That will put everything upside down. That has been so far deterministic. You put a model in a computer, doesn't matter Intel, AMD, you expect an answer. With quantum equipment, you could have a more probabilistic forecast. The opportunities are huge in terms of if you go into cleantech forecasting, for example. You can do quantum states that would create a future scenario possibilities of what you can generate. But also that will require the right hardware, the right software layers to operate with quantum computing, because not all the software that has been built up to now will run well in quantum computing. They are designed to run in traditional core processors, microprocessors. So that is huge, and it's a significant percentage of the AI waste and energy costs.
I think mostly what Gareth said, I would say resilience. With the increasing number of severe weather events that are happening around the world, I think everybody needs to look for ways to fiber energy, like use the grid, people at home, those are other options that we would want to be able to support so that you can still continue to power and maybe get some more safety too. All right, great. So again, great advice and thoughts on what's coming. All right, so we are leading with our panel. We're going to go to the audience Q&A. So if anyone has a question, please raise your hand. We're going to circulate a mic. Take this one.
Any takers? Any questions in the audience?
Hello everyone, thanks for talking to us today. You guys have been awesome. My question is about how sustainability and environmental-based technology is such like a polarizing topic right now. How do you face that challenge and push through it and just see the future that like clean technology is going to be big and not get bogged down by the like environmental catastrophizing that's going on?
Did everybody hear that the question was about polarization of environmental technologies and how do you push through that?
When we first started, we sold on sustainability and emission reduction. This was 5 years ago, and very quickly we realised no buying on sustainability. Today, the priorities are cost, resiliency, and sustainability. So my recommendation is always lead with cost and profitability, and sustainability is a useful byproduct of doing the right thing by your business. You can save money, you can be more resilient, and you can reduce emissions. If you try and lead with the emissions, it can turn people off. What we find is sustainability teams often have a mandate but don't have a budget. You want to get to the people who have got access to a budget, you want to incentivize them to act, show the sustainability wins, and then start reaping the snowball effect and value and socializing that. But it's proven, sustainability, when you do it right, it allows people to sell more customers, retain more customers, attract the best talent, have a better share price, run a more profitable organization. So you can sort of translate all of this back to dollars and cents, it wins. What we've played with recently is actually humanizing the impact through being able to show that with your 750 kilowatt solar project, did you know you can save 28 years of human life? And then you can say to a CFO, do you want to save 3 years of your 10 closest friends' lives at the end of their life? That's 3 years of your grandkids. And if you can start actually getting people to think a bit differently about sustainability, a ton reduced of carbon means nothing to anyone. How can we make that feel more tangible?
Yeah, so from our perspective, don't get discouraged by the signals coming from Washington at the policy level. Just lead with value. What environmental technology you are creating, if it's trying to solve a problem that has a clear need in the market, the environmental impact is secondary in the conversation because we are solving a problem. The environmental solutions is an add-on. So to Gareth's point, if you lead with environmental impact, sometimes it ruffles the wrong feathers in the audience, depending on who is on the opposite side of the table. But if you lead with your value, how much are you saving, water emissions, that is quantified in dollar values, everything is easier. And from my perspective, working also at the government, at one point, I remember that the word climate change was banned into the grants, but we managed to go around by saying weather variability. So, yes, there are ways to go around. Don't be discouraged.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to is discussing the impact, talk about jobs. Right? Like one thing that ReJoule talks about a lot is that we want to make battery technician the #1 dual-prime job in America. Right now, in order for you to become a battery technician, you have to go to high voltage training as a mechanic. You actually need to be a master technician before they will send you there. So if you're just coming in out of school, you are not touching an electric vehicle for years. But with our technology, with an hour of training, you can start at least doing basic testing. This opens up a lot of opportunities for people and economic prosperity, and that's a nonpartisan question.
Great, so I heard jobs, I heard we did cost, and don't get too distracted by the current signals coming out of it. Do you have another question? I know we're staying between you and food and drink stuff. But we're here for another few minutes.
I was just curious, kind of back to that for everyone, what does the future of decarbonization look like, kind of as we're starting to think through technology? And it's kind of
The question was, what is the future of decarbonization?
As an example, VECKTA, right at the facility level, we just supported a cold storage company in Northern California. They're paying PG&E 25 cents a kilowatt hour. They have emissions associated with that. We're able to show with a solar and battery storage system they can now get energy locked in at 8 cents a kilowatt hour for the next 20 years, so they can reduce their energy costs by 2/3. They don't have any vulnerability of escalating rates, and they get to reduce their emissions by 75%. And so that is the future, isn't it? It's like the better and better the technologies we've got, the more we can self-consume, and we can buy energy from the grid when it's at its cheapest and its cleanest. And if we can actually start getting all these systems working together, we can actually, the technology already exists, the finance already exists, the construction services all exist. It's actually how do we show people the business case and encourage them to act, because all the ingredients are there.
From our perspective, we see it as a gradual approach, not like an on-off switch that will lead to zero emissions immediately. Our technology enables, for example, the vessels, maritime companies, to schedule operations more effectively. And that has like a significant quantification of like CO2 removal, because they can actually stay less time idle in the sea. They're burning very contaminant diesel. Actually, some of the fleets in the ocean, for example, and you will be surprised, once they move from international waters to California waters, they just switch from the bad oil to the better oil, but they are still contaminating a lot. So trying to enable technologies that will just decrease the emissions gradually until we get synthetic fuels or other ways that we can mobilize the supply chain from our perspective.
I'm going to make a case for the circular economy. So basically, with what we have today, if we can just get more out of it, more use, more reuse, repair, remanufacturing, not just toss it and make it go away and buy a new one, I think that we can achieve decarbonization much more quickly. I know it's a dream because it's about changing behavior, but you're probably here because maybe you're open to that. So I think, there's such thing as a material use hierarchy, so if you have heard of it, see if you not. So really it's about using less to begin with, but then repurposing or reusing or repairing before ultimately recycling. I didn't realize that this was important facts, so I'll share this with you. Some of you may notice that an electric vehicle and internal combustion engine, at the manufacturing, the electric vehicle actually is more greenhouse gas intensive. It takes that much more energy. It's only through the use of the electric vehicle that it becomes greener over time. So if you have a case where you have a vehicle and it's suddenly a total loss and it's only a year old, it actually hasn't offset a lot of that carbon that has been used to make it. So that's something to think about.
Great. I'll just add from the energy perspective, it looks like large-scale, utility-scale clean energy assets, it's like medium-scale clean energy assets, and then it looks like thousands and thousands and thousands of millions of distributed energy assets on businesses, on homes, on various real estate. They're all connected to electrified appliances that are all connected to what we call terms or distributed energy resource management system. And so we're pulsing those and become large asset virtual power plants. So all the way from the micro to the macro, cleaning and greening that grid and then electrifying everything. So we connected to that grid and then connecting everything so that we can stretch assets as needed. Question. Oh, yeah, two more questions. Okay.
What are the biggest challenges in the industry to open new markets and create more business opportunities right now?
Can you repeat the question? Something about business opportunities. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
So, what are the biggest challenges in the industry to open new markets and create new business opportunities right now?
What are the biggest challenges to open new markets and create new business opportunities in your different areas? Okay?
can definitely answer that question because electric vehicles are new, so testing those batteries is an even newer concept. So I think one of the big challenges is helping people understand the value, because when they ask me how much something will cost, and their first reaction is it's expensive, but then my question after that is, what are you comparing it to? Because if you're comparing it to what you're doing today, you're saving a lot of money. If you're comparing to what you're doing for something completely different, like for instance, how you service a gas engine, the testing for that is really, really cheap because we know how to do that for hundreds of years. We're just starting to do that for electric vehicles, we can't use these tools. So getting people around that mindset, I think, is challenging. And at the end of the day, businesses still only will solve problems out of willingness and hands-on. So definitely don't try to force an opportunity. Find the people that have that brilliant game. If they don't exist, there's no business. But if they do exist, they are really checked.
Thank you. So from our perspective, I think that you have to pay attention of the regulatory changes that are happening at Sacramento and Washington level. Because many policies are written that have like severe implications that could create even primary markets, secondary markets, tertiary markets in terms of data providers, hardware opportunities, monetization of like carbon credits, water credits. They are there if you read them, but you have to be involved and understanding what are the trends at the policy level, because that's when you could see that there is a gap, and sometimes the legislation jumps the opportunity. They create a law trying to incentivize the companies to go and tackle that problem. So if you see that there are going to be, for example, a net zero by X on the agricultural domain, or on mining emissions or air quality, then look if the technology exists, and then if not, then there's the opportunity because they don't have to be compliant by law.
For us, it's a communication challenge. It's an education play where, as customers, we've all had energy show up when we wanted it at a price that was affordable. And today, we lease out real estate for use of offices, for car parking spaces, and now there's actually a genuine opportunity to use the built environment to generate a new revenue stream or manage a cost input. Energy makes up between 5 and 40% of our operating costs today for businesses, and yet we've just had it on autopay. We've never actually thought about it. And so it's just changing that mindset and actually educating people at scale and making it really interesting and fun, and understanding that this is actually a major layer that can be controlled.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Okay, Mike's coming back. Speak loudly, please, so we can hear you.
Hi everyone. Basically my question is more related to emerging markets, emerging economies. How do you see the gap in technology and availability impact those emerging economies?
Technology gaps impacting emerging
Economies, like
economies.
South America.
Okay.
Thank you. So great question. So one of the aspects that we saw as a company is I'm originally from Colombia, and the National Weather Services in South America are deeply underfunded and highly bureaucratic. We saw that we could bring this technology to market faster actually in the developing world, because there is a big societal gap between what is expected from the weather services and what they get. So I think that you will find opportunities in the developing world by just like looking at technologies that are developed in, let's say, Europe or North America, and then translate them into their local similarities.
I think many countries skip the landline telephone. I think that's the major opportunity with energy. Is a lot of countries are not bogged down with a huge white elephant of an investment that is now failing, and they've got an opportunity to start from scratch and really re-architect the opportunity from the ground up. And I think for energy, that is the emerging market opportunities. Don't invest in the century old tech, invest in the modern day generate it, store it, use it where it's needed, and figure out the infrastructure at distribution level versus trying to figure out major transmission infrastructure. It's achievable right now, and that's the power of software, is you can actually penetrate markets super quickly and enable these opportunities at scale.
Yeah, I think one other area that can make a huge difference would be like regulatory, environmental incentives. So if you think about China, for instance, they are number one in EV adoption, and that's because they made it actually affordable. I've heard that like an actual driver's license in China costs like tens of thousands of dollars, but they actually have an incentive for electric, and that's why adoption went up so quickly. So I think if the government's in the right place, we can make things happen really fast.
Right, okay, we have come to the end of our Q&A session. Please join me in thanking our